So we talked about retail, and I think the article about the commercial rent assistance is something to talk about, because what we were seeing in April, like I was talking to a lot of small business owners in March, April, May, when they announced the commercial rent assistance. Everybody right away sent a letter or an email or a phone call to their landlord and said, "Hey, I want this." And every single landlord
get on this now.
was just like, "What are you talking about? Where's my rent?" Right? And I think one of the biggest issues is that the program wasn't actually launched until the end of May, so people couldn't even start filling out applications. So we're only, a couple weeks in.
And it's a horrible program. Like, who does it benefit?
No, it's a great program. It's something that is going to help out a lot. It just, there's a lot of stuff. There's got to be certain applications filled out by the tenant and attestments, as well as the landlord, and they have to go through the process and everything else too. But the big landlords, according to the article, seem to be responding well. I mean, when you have the Recipe Unlimited guy,
only one big landlord.
RioCan and First Capital. So
okay, those are two pretty big ones.
Yeah, so that's a really good sign. And if Smart Centers and everybody else comes on board, it seems like the wording from the First Capital guy was that it was their obligation to do so. So Recipe said something along 16% of their landlords had been willing to complete the application, but it was still really new. So what I am expecting now over the month of June is to start seeing more of these applications get processed, more landlords, especially the bigger ones, realizing that the people who are in their units right now need some assistance in order to be able to continue the long-term growth of their business, in order for those investors that these big, huge REITs have, in order to make those numbers work. Because
but how do
if
these
they don't,
businesses stay in business until these applications get processed and approved and funded? And then they have
right now, commercial landlords can't evict anybody until August 31st. So it's going to be okay. And they can do everything retroactively. So they can say, all right, you owe us this much money, but the program's kicked in this much. You owe us 25% from here, and hit into arrears. They can make some arrangements. But
so how does how does this loan work? They're loaning the money to the landlord and then just forgiving it?
After the government gives out a 50% forgivable loan, right? They collect 25% from the tenant, and once the landlord, I guess, would sign something that says they would be relieving the tenant of the 25%, the government releases the loan, or the loan then becomes
forgivable once you
forgivable. That's the word I was looking for.
But it's forgivable once you do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So the main thing is this: 25% rent is a lot better than 100% rent. There are people who've already got under. Maybe those guys were already on the sidelines before, and they were starting to get behind, and their businesses may not come back. There's a lot of those stories. I'm not saying there's not, but there sure is a lot of people who have been trying to stay open, who were essential, who could really use the help, because their numbers that I've been talking to is, some of them are doing really well, but some of them are about 50%.
So what percentage of the landlords are Mr. and Mrs. Smith versus, First Capitals and Brookfields and companies?
Well, it depends on what area you're looking at.
But there's a lot of people that are going to have to apply for this thing. Like, a lot of people. Quickly.
CMHC, the one who's funding it all, again, the people who are releasing the articles that the market's going to crash, right? They're the ones who are footing the bill, right? So at the end of the day, where this money's coming from is the government's going to be, having savings bonds sold off to foreign parties and other investors, and so that they want to have the
but what about the business owner? What is he saying to his suppliers and everybody that he owes money to? Like, hang on, I think I'm going to get my landlord to put in this application and get this money. Like, hang on. Don't put me out of business.
In some cases, yes. I mean, everybody's really, rallying behind each other. And, maybe a month ago it was a little bit
talking
different.
About how people are saying, like, I want my money. Fuck this 25% off shit.
a month ago that was the case, but we're starting to see a little bit different changes now.
When is
So
this thing dated?
we're gonna see at the end of June exactly how many of these applications they'll release the numbers, and so we'll know exactly how many applications are actually being filled out for people to people get the assistance that they need. I mean, the good news is there's positive stances coming from the big landlords, and guys will follow suit. Nobody wants to be the landlord that wasn't willing to save the businesses when this is all said and done. The media backlash that people are capable of today in the social media world and stuff like that is as ruthless. So I think I have a much more positive stance after reading this article than I did a few weeks ago. That's for sure.
I gotta think that there's a lot of landlords out there going, "Ooh, like I can evict them and get so much more for this
You can't
space right now."
you can evict. Rents are probably going to go down.
But what if they
Um,
already evicted somebody?
that's the one that I was thinking about because they were talking about the guy there with the axe throwing. So it did say June 3rd to August 31st. There are no evictions. So I don't think the
So
government
prior
has
to
got
you can be
control.
evicted?
If you have been evicted already, I don't think the government has any ability to step in. So that maybe the rent assistance can kick in and the landlord can renegotiate with the tenant. But the main thing is June 3rd to August 31st, there are no evictions in the province of Ontario now, which is good news for people. It's very good news. Again, CMHC, they've got obviously their own agenda with a lot of different stuff. They're taking on a lot of programs. They are a government mortgage insurance company, so they've got to answer to taxpayers and everything else. So the main thing is, they've got their own view of the market based on their data. It is nationwide. It's not backed up by any more than a crystal ball. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But the reason that they were tightening their restrictions is to ensure that we all understand their stance on the market and that they are trying to curb the borrowing and everything else too. So the main thing is it affects the market in no way, shape, or form. We still have other mortgage insurance providers that people can go to. So there's not going to be something like a major fallout in people's ability to be able to qualify. There'd be a very small percentage of any mortgages that were high ratio that would no longer be able to obtain any type of financing whatsoever.
I love
And
that
that
Genworth comes out and says, "They're crazy. We're going to keep
Gen,
things just how they were."
Yeah, Genworth is like, come to us first.
Yeah.
They CMHC says no, we say yes.
No,
You know,
it's basically saying that, like, they're smart enough to, you know, judge whether people are worth taking the risk on. Like, that's their business, is risk assessment, basically.
they do the same
Right? This
thing.
is this is
Yep.
exactly what they do. They have crazy algorithms and all kinds of data points that decide whether or not you're worthy of borrowing from them.
Yep.
And they're basically just, taking a bigger slice of the pie, like instantly. Because who the fuck is going to go to CMHC with all these tighter restrictions when you have Genworth who does the exact same thing? Like from the consumer perspective, it's no different. What does the consumer care
There's
that it's
well, there's
backed by the government?
there's certain products that CMHC will insure and that Genworth won't,
Like
and
what?
vice versa. I don't know. I'm not a mortgage specialist, but the main thing is that you have to look at it which products are going to be insured or not. So again, there's a very small percentage of deals that were not going to happen, and that the banks were offering before that are only through CMHC and that have to meet the new guidelines. But for the most part, you're going to have a ton of people still qualifying with Genworth or Canada Guarantee. So that's not really something that we're too concerned about.
And you know what? The reality is, like, you have somebody who wants to buy, right? If they're not
Mhm.
able to buy anymore because policy or restrictions or whatever, like, they're still in the real estate market. They still have to rent something, right? So they
Yes,
just they just go
they
from
feed
one
another
side to the
another
other.
another
So who
area.
gives a
Yeah,
shit, right?